everybody, it's Pam with Silver and Sparkles, and I am here today. I had a bunch of requests to show how to make this journal. So this is made with a garbage or a grocery bag, a brown grocery bag. That's the word. The ones that look like this, okay? And I'm going to show you how you turn one of these into this. So I used paper by Pink Monarch Prints. In fact, I did a video showing these page ideas, and this is using their, let's see, what are the names of the kits? I'll link them for you in the description if you like the papers. But it's the Eclectic Papers Red, so these background papers. And then I also used the Classic Ephemera and Tidbits kit to make the pockets and things that I showed in that video. And that's over on their website. And I'll make sure I link that for you guys too. There was one other here, this pocket here. And these were all hidden journaling spots. So if you're interested in the hidden journaling spots, I will link that video. But this video is going to be constructing the journal. So it has this kind of, I don't know, progressive page look. Anyway, so we're going to make one. It's not hard, but there's a lot of layering, obviously, so to make it look fabulous. And I think these papers, personally, are perfect for that brown grocery bag look. I'm going to set this aside. Oh, let me point something out. I've already prepped my bag. I'm going to show you how I prepped it, but depending on exactly how you fold yours or the size your bag is to start with, these may be slightly different, and I think that's part of what makes them beautiful. No two are exactly the same, so don't get too hung up on that part. I'll give you some guideline measurements, and then yours may fold a little differently depending on, you know, how your bag was put together and those types of things. So the first thing you're going to do, if your bag has handles like this one, you want to carefully just pull these off, and they come up pretty well. You know, you hopefully you won't tear your bag. You're going to be layering, so you know, if it gets a little thin or something, the world won't end. But you know, just be gentle and pull them up. I didn't have any problem getting mine up, and then working with the bag from there. All right. The next thing that I did with mine is you're going to be using this flap here to make that kind of half page. Is I went ahead and cut my bag whatever height you want your journal to be. And mine are right at, I think the one we're going to put together today ended up being 8 1/4, because I ended up kind of evening it out after I worked on it. But the original one was 8 1/2, so it's a 1/4 inch difference. And you know, you could certainly make it bigger, but also think about the papers you're going to layer with and what will work for you, and the size papers that you're going to use for your signature, because that could impact the size you make your bag. So once you've cut it off that way, then you're going to take this piece and you're going to fold it back. And I'm going to show you with one I have trimmed up too, because this is going to be that half page. Then you have to figure out where on here you need your fold. Now, I ended up trimming mine off significantly, and you're going to see it took me a couple of tries to get it exactly where I wanted it. And so I'll give you the measurements. For my bag, it doesn't really matter if that's flipped over or not. The entire bag itself ended up being 11 1/8. And then my eventual fold was at 4 1/4. So this piece right here measures 4 1/4 inches. because when we sew this signature in, you want to have that effect where you have your cover that's a little more narrow, your inside pages, your half page, and your back cover. So once, you know, you're going to need to trim this way and this way. And then if you score at about 4 1/4, once you've trimmed this off, it's going to work. So what I'll do is I will try to figure out a way to type up the measurements for you where you make your bag, I would say right at 11 inches, 11 1/8, and then the height of your bag, 8, 8.5, 8 1/4, so that yours will be approximately the size mine is. And if you do that, and then, like I said, I kind of started with this way back here, and then I trimmed some more off, because even though I made the original one, guys, all I did was take the bag and kind of started folding and play with it and layered papers, and I wasn't thinking about replicating it and see how this one doesn't have quite as much of showing those papers, and I liked seeing them a little bit more, so I've altered it a little bit more. But again, you can also see where you could come over and it would still look fabulous. So I hope I didn't confuse anyone, but that's what I did. Now there is a little bit of fiddling with all of these weird layers and things that we're going to talk about. So I didn't want this extra bag, even if I glued it down. I'm just going to, the adhesive on here is quite strong, so I'm going to, in fact, I may just tear it off. Get it started. I just want to have a little less bulk right here on this fold. So I'm just going to trim it off. And you'll see how we start doing some of the layers. I'm also going to get my glue out and start gluing some of this together. Now let me show you, I'm sorry, I keep coming back to this one. I had originally thought about leaving this open and having a pocket and having a tuck spot. And then I did leave the very back cover open and I haven't put anything in there yet, but it is a pocket that I can tuck things in. It gets a little hung up on the bag, so I don't know how functional it is, but I guess if you really glue that down. The reason I ended up sewing up the ends is when I got my papers layered, it was a little wavy, even though I used glue that I always use that doesn't normally do that. I don't know if it's the texture of the bag or exactly what happened, but I was much happier with both of these layers once I stitched it up. I could have run a stitch down, you know, here for appearances as well. So we'll see how ours comes together and make some decisions as we go, okay? So if you've got some bulk there, I would definitely get your glue and glue that flap down, or any flaps you might have. I'm going to glue this piece here. I just pulled that up a little. We're going to have paper sandwiching this together, but just to get me a little bit of structure, I'm going to add some adhesive to help me. All right. And you can also see how when the bag, you know, once you've trimmed it, you start folding, it looks a little uneven. And honestly, it's okay because the paper is going to cover that up. Now I'm using it's almost a white painter's tape, kind of paint tape. And I'm going to show you what I'm doing with mine. I don't want to see a huge, it doesn't cover it up all the way, but I don't want to see all of this blue where it says Kroger. And so I'm just laying a little tape where I think it might show. I don't mind the masking tape look. Those aren't going to show. This little blue touch might show a little bit. So it's really just to have a little bit different, I don't know, color, texture, something, if and when you layer your papers, that little bit might show. So this is optional. I also like the texture of this kind of tape. I think it makes projects, I don't know, kind of feel good. So that's what I'm doing. So I'm just gonna lay them down, let it overlap a little, and then we will move on. All right, it also gives you a little bit of, I can just trim this off, which is what I should have done instead of sitting here tearing it 14 times. You know, it makes the paper a little stronger too in a few spots. So, you know, use as much or as little as you want. I see one more spot I'm gonna cover up. You could use pretty washi tape to do this. That coordinates with your project. You know, really, again, up to you if you even want to do it. But there we go. I don't have to worry about that blue being super bright. You can still tell there's something under there, but not much. Okay, so I've already pre-cut my papers, and we are going to be layering them with a little bit of a border. And you can make yours as much or as little as you want. Now, if your bag is exactly the size as mine and you're making your journals, this paper is 3 3/4 by 8. So it's giving me about 1/4 of an inch on either side and probably 1/8 of an inch top to bottom. Just the way I ended up cutting my papers. Now on the prototype, I also used some fun vintage sheet music for some accents. And after I get all my layers on here and we see what it's looking like, we may add some of that. So we'll just see. But I want to first see how my layers go. Now, for right now, I'm gonna see if perhaps this won't get too weird and wavy. So it would help if I went ahead and added glue to this section. And again, play with your bag. See what you think you're gonna need. Do you see how I'm just adding glue? Because I really want this to have quite a bit of stability. And then I'm also going to glue this layer. I'm not gluing it closed, but I'm just going to glue this layer to that front cover. And again, when I did mine, this is exactly how I did it. I just kind of started looking at how the paper was working and deciding where I needed glue. So we're still have the option of this being open here if we decide to. If not, I'll close it up to help smooth it out. Okay, now that means I'm going to want to glue this portion closed because I want it to be a side load pocket if we get to keep it as a pocket. And whenever this has been my experience, when I'm crafting with junk mail, with paper bags, upcycling products, you kind of have to just work with your materials and see what's going to work. One project, you may be perfectly fine, and then the next time you go to do it, the material you use responds a little bit differently, or it was a little bit different size, shape, or different layers, that kind of thing. So hopefully this is inspiring you to grab one of your grocery bags and see what you can come up with. All right, making sure I cover up the blue that was on that layer. And see, now you almost don't even, your eye just kind of goes over it, I think. All right, this panel was the same size as this panel, but again, I just measure, like this is where my crease line is right here. So I would just measure. This one's probably, I'm gonna guess about the next layer. That one might be for this panel. Let's just see before we get going. Yeah, I think this one goes in here. So this one is right at 3 1/4, and again by 8, and it's going to fit right in here. And there really isn't anything here. It's just where the bottom of the bag is flipped over. All right, so again, layering. And it is fun how just with some really pretty papers, you can suddenly have something so beautiful. So if you are new to my channel, welcome. Thank you. Thank you to everybody who requested this video. It's so fun when there's a nice response, when y'all see something you like and you reach out. So thank you. When I do videos for Pink Monarch, I try to go over there and look at comments, but I don't get the alerts because it's posted on their channel, and I don't get the alerts that someone's left a comment or things like that. But I do try, and I was excited when I saw you guys liked the page ideas and wanted to see the journal being made. So here we go. You never know. You know, sometimes I will make a video or do a project and I think, oh, everybody's gonna love this one. And it's like, or that's how the response is. You know, I mean, it's not negative. It's just like it wasn't as popular or what people really wanted. And then there's something else that I just kind of threw together and everybody's like, oh, I like that. I would like to see that. All right, here's another one that I want to be a side load if we end up leaving it open. So I'm just going to close up the top with some glue. All right, now we have these two sections, and this is where, again, I didn't put a full piece of paper because I felt it got way too bulky in this crease. I'm gonna just glue that down. I may even put a piece of tape over this, and didn't want it to get like way too bulky or anything. So if you want to try that, you could, depending on the thickness of your layering papers, it might work. You know, I'm using the Nina 90-pound cardstock that is kind of my everyday paper that I junk journal and craft with. I sometimes will use like just a copy weight paper or 20 pounds, something like that. And again, if you're using a thinner layer paper, you might be able to put a whole piece here and not have an issue. I'm gonna add just a little more tape. I'm not liking how that's ruffling up on me. Okay. And then this panel, and again, just measure, and again, I do mine anywhere from about a 1/4 inch smaller to a 1/2 inch smaller, just to have that little border of the brown craft. So I like to see it, especially with these papers. But I hope this also, you know, you could take the same size bag and you can make a little one, you know, it could be even smaller. So lots to think about. Oh yeah, it's looking really good. To make everything happy. Now I cover the back. You don't have to, but I'm going to cover mine. And this is going to, again, you might want to use on a piece this big. I didn't get mine out, but you know, you might want to lay down some two-sided tape, or you could cover it with, you could start with a layer of like glue stick and then put a little bit of wet white on there, you know, just anything to really get it stuck down. Maybe not the glue stick, that might make this bag warp, but I think mine will be okay. And that's how I glued the other one down. And sometimes I go back, like if I didn't get enough right along the edges, you know, and I'll add a little more glue as I go. Now this one is not, when I tell you guys this one got wavy, I'm talking like, ooh, I don't know what I did. Maybe it was the vintage paper caused it. I'm looking at that now and realizing that I had, on this one anyway, the vintage paper right on the edge. I don't know, something happened. This one I can live with, you know, and I'm happy having a pocket, and then the big pocket in the bag. So I'm happy with that. Now, I printed, and mine, I just did, I think I did 6 pages. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, 6, and I printed on both sides to make it nice and pretty. I don't think I want this one on the front now that I'm looking at this paper here. I want to pick a different one for the front. So maybe I'll do, let's see how this looks. And I had already trimmed the edges just a little bit so that the paper, when you stack them like this, we had a nice clean edge, but now I'm switching it around. Oh yeah, I like that. Okay. The other thing that would be pretty would be to put the, let's see how that looks really quick before I make a final decision. Oh, I was thinking it might look nice to have, oh yeah, I do like that. So we've got the butterfly and strips, the red, kind of the red, this piece, and then red. I like that. Now, I think if I switch one more, I know, I am just changing it up, but it's just the order of my papers. It's not a big deal. There we go. That's better. Like I said, sometimes what I'll do when I stack my signatures together, I'll pull out the last like 2 or 3 sheets and trim them off just a touch. They're not poking out because you use up space here when they're folded together. But I'm okay with that. And I don't need to go over there and trim them up. All right, so all I did for this one is I sewed it in using a 3-hole pamphlet stitch, and I have demonstrated this many times on my channel, but we're gonna do it really quick. It won't take long. You don't have to watch if you don't want to. And I just realized I'm gonna clip it right to the cover. So get your papers the way you want them, line them up top to bottom, and then clip it in nice and secure. And then look, and again, just make sure you like how everything looks. And then I am going to, I think you guys hopefully, let me just, can see the fold line. And I'm going to measure, I've got, these pages are almost 8, well, they're more like 7 3/4 inches. So let's use the centimeters. We're right at 20 centimeters. This is gonna make it easy because I wanna put a hole right in the middle. So I'm gonna go at 10 centimeters, and then I'm gonna come up to 3, and then 1, 2, down to into 17. So now my 3 holes are evenly spaced and the same just difference, you know, from the bottom of the journal and the top of the journal. And I'm just going to use my paper piercer to poke those through. And again, when you're only sewing in one signature, it's pretty easy and quick. A lot of people say, oh, I don't know how to do that, or I don't like to sew. And I understand, but if you get a big eye needle, and you can use embroidery floss, you can use this waxed thread like I'm using. It's really, it really isn't that hard. And I know, like I said, a lot of people would rather have, you know, no-sew options. And I like no-sew journals, but sometimes just sewing a signature in is nice and helpful. So I cut my thread approximately 3 times the length of the height of my pages. All right, we are going to start in the center hole inside and pull our thread through and leave a tail so you have enough to tie it with. And then we're going to come through the top hole, the outside of your journal. Make sure, hopefully, you're coming up through the hole in the papers. If you have to peek like I did, that's okay. Get it lined up. All right, skip the center hole and come back through the bottom hole. And this is where these paper clips really help hold it together for you. Then pull that through, make sure you haven't pulled your tail. And then through the center hole. And back, and again, you might have to peek a little. There you go. All right, and pull it through. And then the only other thing you really have to pay attention to now is to make sure you have one of the threads to the left and one to the right of this center string. You're going to pull it nice and snug, check the back, make sure you almost can't see it. It's almost the same color as the paper. It's nice and secure and everything looks right. And I'm going to tie 1, 2, just like a regular knot. And then I'm going to switch hands and do one more. There we go. You can leave it long. You can trim it up short, however you want to. I'm just going to do mine like that. And you could see, you probably don't need your length of thread to be quite that long, but I'd rather have extra and have options of what I want to do with those. If I want to tie a bow or beads, whatever, it's also a little easier to sew if you have them a little bit longer. All right, we're just gonna make sure all the pages are the way we want them and they look good, and press them down. Will help them get used to being sewn in. And this one is going to be ready to decorate. Again, you can add, this would be cute to add some stacked pockets. You could come through with some neutral journaling paper for some writing spaces, add pockets. I mean, we could add a closure, like a nice big chunky button. If you want to do that, you might want to sew it on the front before you lay this paper down, you know. Just do a loose ribbon. I'm not going to take the time now, but you could tear a few strips if you want to of some book page or vintage sheet music and give it, you know, another little look. This came about because my papers, the way I cut them, they weren't the right size. I'm like, I'll just fix it by adding a strip of sheet music. So I think you can see that you really can change these up. I wasn't really even at the time I was layering the papers thinking that I had the same one back to back, you know, just who knew, right? But you can make this with any papers and anything that speaks to you. And I hope you liked it. Please let me know what you think. And if you haven't already, give the video a thumbs up and leave me a comment. If you haven't subscribed, I hope you'll consider subscribing to my channel and getting notified. You hit that bell and you'll know when I upload new content. So I hope you like it. Until next time, everybody, have a great day.